All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to another one of our sessions. We are going to get started here. In the chat, I will put the link for our presentation. And then I will be sharing out, we will be sharing out an email that has, make sure I put in the right one. I have too many tabs up here. Yep. That has a link to our folder, a link to all of the videos and everything like that, because I know everybody's getting inundated with thousands of emails. So today we're going to go over like kind of an introductory type of Google Apps, and really our focus is more on things that you can do for creation and things that you can be doing right now. Like we could get into Google Sheets and Keep and a bunch of different things, but we for the sake of time and depth, we selected a few that I think are necessities. So if you have any questions, you want to see something, you want us to slow down, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll stop. Everything we have in here can be used, anything from the K to 6 level, I think, in most part. But these are some different tips and tricks that we think that will really help you as we get going into next week and beyond, and when we go back to classrooms and all of that good stuff. So with that being said, let's get googly.
Good job. I wasn't sure if you were going to say
it. So the first of the different things we want to look at, okay, here is the Suite Life. And Kate, you can just jump in whenever you want. But there are, and I'm sorry, we're going to do 4 different things. The waffle that we've all talked about, and whenever we first merged over to Google 5, 6, however decades ago that was, is something that we always hit and we always look at and we always talk about. Most of everything that we're going to discuss is in that waffle, or maybe my waffle's broken and I couldn't find forms in there earlier. But there's going to be a couple of things like that. But these are the main things we have, and in there, docs, forms, slides, sites, and sheets are really the main, I guess, 5 that you would say we use. And then obviously mail, drive, and all of those different things as well. But in terms of creation and doing, those would be the 5 main things that we're looking at.
And even, I wish we had more than 30 minutes because, and maybe we're gonna have to do a part 2, because we got really in depth like with slides, and there's really awesome things you can do with sites and forms. So even today, if there's something that you're thinking about that like you want more, you would help us design our part 2 if you could, anything that pops in your head, just put it in the chat. Because there's definitely things we can go more in depth on, and maybe there's something small that we just didn't think about that you would like to know. So feel free to use that chat, and it'll help us design next week's PD. Whew.
Okay, so first starting with docs. So if you were to click on, and you don't need to, Kate, but if you were to click on the Google Tips, the Google Docs tips, this is something from Casey Bell, and she is, if you've never listened to her or watched any of her things, or read any of her things, trying to again feed you some different options of learning. That is going to give you, I think it is 10 different docs tips that you can look at. It has screenshots, it has different things, and it looks at a number of different things that you can be doing. One of the things that we're going to focus on in one of the specific slides is forcing a copy. And because I think that is something that a lot of you have reached out to us about wanting to see, but here are some different ways that you can make your docs creative. And a couple of different things. So that's a really good resource. If you go to the next one, then these are 8 ways to make your docs dynamic. And here are some instructional ideas that are not limited to this, but are things that you could do with a doc that is more than just giving out directions or setting out, making a worksheet that goes into that. We went into a session yesterday on HyperDocs. You can make a digital notebook. A multimedia text set is something that gets discussed with looking at HyperDocs. but that's something that could be very similar to a choice board. You could do a mystery scavenger hunt, collaborative story writing. The list is endless. And then if you can click on that 8 different ways, this will take you to, this is for Kate, a cult of pedagogy.
Andy, I'm wearing the shirt today.
Are you really?
Yes, I am. I knew you would do this to me.
A cult of pedagogy on 16 student projects. Now this is, the link is to more than just docs, but has some really good stuff in there that you can access. So feel free to look at that and listen to her voice. And like I said, if her voice bores you, her content is really good.
Her content is amazing. It doesn't matter. She's like, I have a major girl crush.
So there's that, as well as the icon that we took from Twitter, but it has, go ahead and click on it. Go back to sites.
Oh.
So these are different ways you can make docs dynamic, and 2 of them that I'll really outline is, one is docs.new. If you've not done that, you can just go to, like, open up a new tab and just type in docs.new and it'll open up a new Google Doc for you. That's one that I don't think about a lot of times. I knew it, but I didn't think about it. And then making a link, a template link. So like, let's say you wanted to share something out at the end of the URL, similar to how we're going to show you copy. You can just write in templates slash, I can't see what it is, but you can type that in there, and it will force open just a template doc that somebody would have to then create their own. So that's a really easy way to share out like a newsletter or something like that without having to worry about the 55 different permission settings. So those are just some different things for you to look at. Docs is something we've used a lot of, so we're not going to spend a ton of time with docs. A couple of things that people have asked about, so we go to the next slide. How do you change the background color? Because it gets boring looking at a white sheet every single time that you make something. And if you've done anything with HyperDocs or anything like that, here's a way that you can change the background color. That is super easy, and I will say that it is not something I bought into at the beginning a few years back of why this would make a doc better, but it does. And then you can work with your font and all those different things. The one after that is getting into sharing settings. And Kate, you can fill in anything with sharing because you've been fielding a lot of questions with that. But when you go to share something, I want to say it is default that anyone with the link can view. So if you were to click on advanced, and then this would pull up the next icon where you want to make sure that they can view it, and if you wanted to share it with them, you can, but you don't want to send out anything where they can edit, because if you do, then that's going to mess with everything you have. Anything I'm missing with that, Kate?
Just basically, if you get the shareable link, that's usually view. Default is view. But if you're typing in people's names down here where it says people, the default is edit. So those are like the 2 big things that people do. They'll either get the shareable link and send it out and think, why can't people edit it? Or they'll put their name in here and then it's automatically editable and they didn't want it to be editable. So you have to be aware of which one you're sharing, or how you're sharing, I guess I should say. If you're automatically typing someone's name in, they're going to edit unless you change. Like this little arrow here next to the pencil, if I type in Andy's name, I can change that to a different setting, but automatically it's going to allow him to edit it unless I change it otherwise.
And we'll see the screen a little bit later, but I think it's important to see it because it is the same everywhere we go with the Google Suite, except for Forms. So next is how do we force a doc to make a copy? And if you click on the Casey Bell one at the very beginning, it will then show you some of this. But this is just something that you first need to make sure the link sharing is on, that anyone can view it, and you want them to view it, not edit it. And then if you clicked on the end of your URL at the top there that says docs.google and all of those things, The first one will show that it always says, in most cases, it always says edit. So like you can see at the top here, Kate says edit, and then it has slide and all those other things after it. If you erase that and you typed in copy at the end of it, like you see the second or third image at the bottom here, what that's going to do is it's going to, if you would copy and paste that and send that to somebody, it's going to force a copy. So anything that we've done where you clicked on it and it said must force copy, or you've done it from other places, this is how we did that. And in the Casey Bell thing as well, it'll go through those steps if you get lost or anything like that. This is something that I do all the time because it's just so much easier to share out different things. Don't want to undersell docs, but that will be enough to get everybody dangerous. So slides is very dynamic for creation that Kate is extraordinary at.
I love slides. It's my favorite tool. If I have to use something, I always go to slides first, and then if I absolutely have to, I'll move away from it. But I use slides most of the time. So before we get into like the tips and tricks, like the little tiny things you can do with it, here are some instructional uses. Obviously, hyperdocs, digital note cards. You can narrate presentations. Like right now, we could be teaching you all, and you're not watching it, but we're recording it, and you see the slide, you see our screen, and you hear our voice. Well, you can do the same thing using slides and Screencastify for students. You can do comic strips. You can choose your own adventure. And here is an example of choose your own adventure. So if I put it in present mode, this is like a history project that a teacher has made someday, any day. Here we go. Present view. And so basically, somebody has taken, you don't need to view slides in order, right? So they've linked each slide to different things. So, so if they wanted to look at artifacts, there were different artifacts they needed to look at. Here's the teacher question, the next artifact, and then I can hit this home button and I go back to my road. Then if I want to go and read about the trains, obviously this is an elementary example, but they've made essentially a roadmap for the students, and it's a little bit more engaging than read this text or go read this or go read this. So like they're going on a journey and there's a to-do list. So obviously there's some type of task that they're doing, but they've made it more engaging. So it's a create your own journey is what they're called, but basically you've linked the slides to this main slide. So if I click on apples, I'm going to go right to the apples. But as you can see, the slides are over here on the left. I've just, a teacher has hyperlinked them to the, and has anchored them to this first page. And then you can do things like, whoops, let's go back. You can do things like Jeopardy, obviously, where this is a template for you to use if you're interested. And you could do this during a Google Hangout with your kids. You could do it live. So like as I'm showing it to you now. So I'd pick the Jeopardy board. I'd hit presenter view. And then we could sit here together and play Jeopardy. And then I would keep track of points and such. So if I click on the 100, my computer's being very slow, but then here would be the question. And I could just type that in. So that is a template that is available for you. So those are some, not all of them. Obviously, there's like 100 million uses for slides. Those are just different ways to think about slides. Instead of like most people tend to think of it as a presentation tool, but it's way more than a presentation tool. So when you're starting slides, you always start by choosing a theme, which is like your background or whatever. And so you can use Google Slide themes. So if you pick your background or your layout or your theme, it's within Google Slides. I've highlighted it at the top and I've highlighted it on the right. I don't use these. They tend to be very packaged, very the same, very, they're just boring. So that's one option. Another option is to use something like Slides Carnival, which if you're going to use a theme, this is probably a little bit more engaging, and I've hyperlinked it on the right. This will take you to the website, and you can choose a theme that'll go right to your Google Drive. You can choose it by color, if it's formal, inspirational, creative, simple, startup, elegant, playful, business. So really, these are presentations that have already been made by somebody, and you can add them to your drive and start to edit. So that's the second way. to pick a theme. The third way is my favorite. If you were in the HyperDoc session, this is how Andy and I find all of our slides. We are currently, even for this one and actually all of the PD sessions, we use an add-on called Unsplash Photos, and then we just type what we want in, like background or, for this presentation, I think I use lots of colors, so I would type in rainbow or colorful, and then, that's how I found the background for these. And one of the things that we tend to do is maybe not this one, but if there's something specific that we're talking about, we tend to use a mental anchor. So whatever is in the background is usually connected to what we're talking about. This one, obviously, we're talking about just adding an add-on, so there's no reason to have an image in the background that is a mental anchor. But for most of the time, we will have them. Okay, so little tidbits here and there for slides. If you want to if you're making a text box and you have a certain kind of font and it's the right size, and then you make another text box, but it's not the same, if you use the paintbrush and then you click on both of them, it will make everything the same. So that way you don't have to click here, change the size, click here, change the size. It makes everything uniform. So just click on that roller brush and click on whatever you want to be the same, and you can make it the same. This is the crop tool. So you can make any image you can crop it like a normal, what you do on your cell phone, or you can crop it to make an image. So this is a image I pulled, whoops, trying to get out. This is an image of a rose that I pulled off of the internet. Let's make it really big. And so let me bring it forward real quick, arrange. And so if I hit the crop tool, I can change it into any shape I want. I could change it into an arrow. I could change it into a speech bubble, whatever it is that I want to do. And then sometimes, like, you might think, okay, why would I do that? So this originally, make it big, is a solid photo. But I was able to make it, when I cropped it, this is originally what it looks like. But if I make it like a border of some sort, I can make it big and I could put it on the outside of the slide. So it could be a nice, pretty border. So that's just something interesting, like a little tidbit on that slides can do for you. Let me go back. And I think now we're going to get into like the little meatier stuff, maybe. Go. There we go. Okay, so how to embed a YouTube video, or just, it should say video because technically you can embed by a URL or from your Google Drive, but we both highly recommend using it YouTube because you're not going to have as much trouble if you do it by YouTube. And so you can search by topic in the YouTube section, or you can search by the exact link that you've seen something in YouTube. And just real quick, if you do embed a video into slides, the ads will not be embedded, so you won't see any ads, or the students won't see any ads. And so it looks like this. So I included a video that says how to add a video into your slides. So that's not something we're going to watch now because my computer will go nuts, but that's available to you. So slides are a really awesome collaboration tool. And just to go over really quick what each symbols mean. The pencil means you can edit. Like if I send it to you, you will be able to make changes. We tend to send things out with the eyeball. So right now you can see this in view only. But if we want feedback, then we usually put the comment settings on. So very rarely do we send anything out with the edit, because when we send something out, we're doing a tutorial of some sort. But for teachers, that might be a really awesome tool, because there's different ways to collaborate, which I'll show you here in a second. But just to be aware that if you want things to view, you have to go, when you're sharing them, make sure they are saying view. But if you want them to edit, you're going to change this so that they can edit. So here are some really awesome ways to collaborate. And these are all templates. All 6 of these boxes are hyperlinked for you. So if you want students to do an Iron Chef competition, and this is a website you might want to save, and basically explains that it's a student-centered gamified jigsaw that is used to cover content and connect to standards. So students read, synthesize, and create and present to their peers. Here's the free template. but the template's empty. It's not going to give you quite an example of what it is. But let's say here's, these are student examples. This one's on Anne Frank. And so, each of the students was given this one was on vocabulary. So each one of the students was given a vocabulary word, definition, 3 sentences, synonyms, an image or a GIF, or they did both. But then throughout the book, each student was given a different thing, and then they were asked to teach each other. So those are templates available. There's a cyber sandwich, which I wonder if I have one up. Yep, cyber sandwich. And so this is a really awesome version that they basically had to compare the attacks on Pearl Harbor versus the attacks on 9/11. And so the students would go through, and it's another jigsaw thing, the who, what, when, where, how, why. And then they would have to be partnered with somebody. And so it's like with a partner, fill in the graphic organizer with their different takeaways. So really, like if you read a book and I read a book, or if you read about Pearl Harbor and I read about Pearl Harbor, we're going to come away with different facts and different things. So they work together to fill this out. And then it goes back into a little bit more detail. So these are just different ways that you can have, oh my gosh, sorry guys, that you can have students collaborate. And I'll just do one more real quick because we're going to run out of time, or not. This one is Which Doesn't Belong. And this one is kind of neat. I sent this out to some middle school teachers this afternoon because you could probably use this in any content area at any grade level. Either you can say which image doesn't belong, or you can have them build, like whatever you're talking about, whatever content it is that you're using, maybe they have to pick 4 pictures and 1 doesn't belong. Okay, so there's other templates, and the ebook one is a complete Google Drive folder from somebody that a teacher made, but I'm going to keep going. So those are all ways that students could work together collaboratively in slides beyond just here is a presentation. So Google Sites, and Andy, stop me if you want to add something. Sites is just it's a really nice tool. It's really impactful. I think Andy and I are just getting the tip of the iceberg of what we could possibly do with it. And since we're running out of time, we won't go really into it, but it's basically super intuitive and it's packaged. So you could just pick a theme, a text, and then you just click on icons like upload a file, upload an image, upload something from your drive. And we've also included an example of a teacher page right here. And so some instructional usages, here's a nice video from Ditch That Textbook, Matt Miller. He's got 10 things that teachers should know about Google Sites. And here is a passport example. So either you can build a site and have like your materials on a site for students to consume, or you could have students create their own site. So this is actually an example of students demonstrating their learning by putting what they need to create on their website. And so basically it's a passport. And they went through each area of the globe. I can't remember exactly where they were. And they had to demonstrate their learning. Really awesome thing. So I think that might be part of our part 2 because we're running out of time, but it's super powerful.
So another thing that might be part of our part 2 is forms. So here is, again, if you click on the image, it's going to take you to Matt Miller's Ditch That Textbook, and it'll give you X amount of things that you can use forms for. And here are just a few of very like surface level ideas, but I think a few of them are, and we've talked with a couple of you, you could do a daily check-in. I know 5th grade at Southern did that for at least part of the year, if not all of it, this year. Or you could do a weekly check-in now. How are you feeling? What are you doing? Anything you want us to know about? And that can keep you connected with your kids, whether you're in the classroom or we're in present day of what we're going through. And it can be as simple as a 2-question thing, and then you're able to connect with them. You could do breakout activities. You could actually use this for a hyperdoc. And I forgot to hyperlink in there. I will. A good example of that. You could do a choose your own adventure activity. That one's hyperlinked in there. So a lot of things you can use for it. And forms isn't hard to get to or to do. And if we go to the next one, you'll see that, unless I'm wrong, which is very possible, I could not get it in my waffle, but if you click on new and then more, it's going to give you the option to build a new form.
Andy,
Yeah?
I can't either, which is why if you can see up here, it's bookmarked.
Okay. So
Because
good.
we use it so much, but it's not in my waffle.
Good. I'm not crazy then.
Mm-mm.
I was like, it has to be there, but no. And so I guess I just do it so much that I don't even think about how I get there.
Yeah.
There is an over arrow beside forms that if you click on that, it's going to give you the option for templates. And some of the templates are really great. Some of them are bleh, but you know, they're at least a starting point. Or if you just click on it, it's going to open up a blank quiz. So you can add a number of different types of questions. You can put in, you know, short answer, long answer. You can do multiple choice, the grids, check everything like that. So then whenever you want to, you can either have that be just like a survey type tool, or it can actually be a quiz where there are correct answers and it grades it for you within some certain limits. So on the next slide, it gets into how do you even make it a quiz. So at the top there, you're going to have a settings area, and once you click that, this next button is going to come up, and then that's where you can mess around with general stuff, presentation, etc. And then in there, it can bring in quizzes. And then you can either make it as a quiz, and then whenever you put in your multiple choice things, it will ask you to put in the correct answers. And so in a different session, we can absolutely go more into forms, because I think we could all get lost in forms. I can get lost in forms. And that's where, and Kate talked about this in our classroom one before, you can lock the Chromebook down and all of that. And then the last one, because I know we're going to be running out of time, there's two different ways that we send out forms. There's the send, which is on the left, and up at the top there, if you go into forms thing, it's either going to give you the option to send, or you click on the snowman. And when you click on the snowman and you want to work with your grade level team to everybody make a form for X, Y, and Z. Kate and I do this all the time. You add a collaborator, and then that's where you have the option and ability to work on that and mess around with anything you want. If you want to send it, that's where you hit the send, and then that's where you put in whether it's an embed link or you send it out to individual people, and then you can put in a subject line and all of that stuff. Anything, Kate, in a minute that I'm missing on forums? I know we went fast, especially on those last two, which we could go into just one on sites and one on forums, and maybe that's what we'll do. But sorry, Kate, I asked you if you wanted to add anything, and then I kept talking.
No, you were right. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, it's just, we could do so much with forms and sites that we might just have to make them their own thing. Next week, another day. Happy Friday.
Yeah, and I see a couple of good ideas in here for next time. That would be great. If anybody has anything additionally that they would like to see, put it in the chat. We're gonna be sending out something, but feel free to put anything you wanted to see more of, or anything like that, and we'll be sure to do that. Thanks everybody for coming on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good weekend.
Kate, do you just want to stay on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta find my folder.
Is my pizza ready?
No, you have like 8 minutes. 7 minutes.
Is my pizza ready? Oh, my children are the same way.
Between that and macaroni